Mark Brewer, President and CEO of Central Florida Foundation, is joining me to share a bit about the region's community foundation. Hi, tell us a little bit about yourself and the foundation.
Hi, Commissioner. Thank you. The Central Florida Foundation is the region's community foundation. And so we're a kind of a launch pad for strategic philanthropy. We're a place where hundreds of families and individuals and companies create charitable funds, and then the foundation assists them in reaching their goals for helping the community to give back.
How did it start?
The foundation started in 1994 when literally a handful of people put $1 million on the table and said, we need a community foundation because we didn't have one. And today it has assets of more than $180 million and makes gifts all across the region.
Who are the founding donors of the foundation?
Well, there were many. There were more than 20 founding donors of the foundation, and they were families, and in a couple of cases there were bequests left to the foundation from people in their wills in order to help the community after they had passed.
Is there a founder for the foundation, someone who came up with the idea?
No, no, it was really put together by a handful of lawyers, bankers, business people who recognized that most of the nonprofits in the region at that time were too small to be able to handle larger gifts, or too small to be able to handle gifts from people that wanted a strategy and measurement behind the giving. And so the foundation, that's its primary role in the community.
So what's the main focus of the foundation? You mentioned about some measurements. Tell us more about that.
So the Central Florida Foundation has all of these fund holders for which we provide them the technical assistance that they need in order to make grants into the community. But the foundation has some larger initiatives that we work on. Things like 100 Women Strong, which is almost 100 women who are venture philanthropists. They come together, they identify issues and needs in the community for women and children, and then they pool their resources to make grants, measuring the outcomes as they move along. Social Enterprise. Social Enterprise is a nonprofit or a for-profit that does work in the community that has both social measures and is sustainable or profitable. So in other words, it doesn't have to be supported by donors because it earns money doing something that is also socially good. So our accelerator that we operate in cooperation with Rollins College and other folks provides a place for those social enterprises to come through, get their acts together, and attract capital to them for investment. Housing is a big part of what we do, identifying ways to find attainable housing for people at the workforce income level and below, and affordable housing for the rest of the world. Everyone has an affordable housing problem, but people who earn less than $50,000 a year down to the homeless level have an attainable housing problem. So the foundation has a fund created to provide gap capital for developers who are trying to develop that kind of housing. And then we also started a housing trust a few years ago to try to acquire real estate so that we can develop affordable housing. Those are a few of many things that we do in the community, but the initiatives of the foundation are really focused on how do we measurably change some of the trend data. We recognize that many times that we're on the wrong end of a list, right? We're either number 1 on a bad list or number 50 on a bad list. And so that trend data is what helps us identify, are the things we're investing in, funding, are they actually making a difference? Are they working?
Well, I like to say we're number 1 for a lot of good things and a lot of bad things.
That's right. That's exactly true.
The pain of a growing community.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Or fast-growing community, I should say.
That's exactly right.
And how does the foundation work with nonprofits in the area? You mentioned a little bit about that.
So the foundation does continual grant opportunities for nonprofits across the region. So if you think of the sector divided up into healthcare, education, human services, arts and culture, and the faith-based community, all of those are nonprofits. And so we have a continual stream of grant making that goes into the community out of our funds and also out of grant rounds that we do. In fact, we've made about $1.4 million in grants in your district to nonprofits so far this year.
If a nonprofit's interested in applying for a grant, how do they go about doing that?
So for us, it's relatively easy. We have a space on our website called Nonprofit Search. It's a transparency vehicle that we provide to the entire community. Most of the nonprofits in the region have a profile in Nonprofit Search. You can look at their finances, their boards, the work they do, and how they measure it. If you have a valid profile in Nonprofit Search, we'll find you. When we have money that matches something you do, then we identify and come to you to find it. And then we typically have 3 or 4 opportunities a year where people can apply. And for that, we make all of the nonprofits aware when those application times are open.
How does someone get a profile?
All they do is contact the foundation. You can visit our website at cffound.org, and there you'll find Nonprofit Search and the connector for starting your profile.
What can residents do to make sure that they're supporting nonprofits and supporting your organization?
So that's a great question, and it's a really important part of democracy. Everybody knows about the private sector and the public sector, but few people really understand the independent sector or the nonprofit sector. It's a sector that was designed to do the things the public sector and the private sector either can't do or won't do. And so when you're supporting the nonprofit sector, it's really about democracy. It's really about you finding ways to make investments in your community through a nonprofit that has a mission you care about. It's not just about giving money. It's also about volunteering your time. It's about taking time to identify the issues in the community and who's working on them. The Central Florida Foundation is made up of fund holders, so people that like strategic philanthropy are attracted to us to create funds for which they can work. Think about it this way for a minute. Philanthropy is kind of a continuum. And on one side of the continuum, you have retail philanthropy. That's people who do fundraisers. So if I ask you to donate a couple of dollars to a nonprofit that's doing good work and you write a check, you're a retail philanthropist. If you go to a dinner or a golf tournament, you're a retail philanthropist. On the other end of the continuum are people who think more strategically about what things they want to change and who in the community is doing the work that is getting the most done and doing it best. And then we think about how can you put a group of nonprofits together, all working in the same space, make an investment in all of them, and get better outcomes. So visiting cffound.org would give people who are interested in philanthropy a way to understand the foundation and also understand how they can support us or how they could create a fund. We're not like most other nonprofits in that we don't do fundraising events, because we're a collective of philanthropy, and all of the money that we have comes from philanthropists who are giving back to the community.
So you don't do fundraisers? That's why. Okay, just want to make sure I understood that from what you said.
Yeah, no. So in our world, it's typically as people are transferring wealth, or they're thinking about what to do at the end of their life, or they're young entrepreneurs who are thinking about how do they give back. They come to us and ask if we can help them figure out how to do that. They then establish a fund at the foundation, and we help them with that. So that's our work. Our work is not the mission of doing the day-to-day work. It's the mission of figuring out how to get the capital necessary for the people that are doing that work.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Are there any programs or activities that residents can get involved with?
Certainly. We have several things that go on at the foundation for which there's opportunity to be involved. You can certainly be a volunteer around our tables that look at issues in the community and assist with things in the community. We do an annual event called Table Talk, where we bring people from around the region together into conversations on a single day, and then we collect up what they've said. And in many cases, we'll make grants in those spaces, so the people that have identified issues in the community that they think they can solve, we'll help them with money or other assistance to go try to get done what they've identified. There's also the opportunity to join 100 Women Strong if you're a woman and you're interested in that, women and children in the community and the things that can make their lives better. And you have a strategic side where you like to kind of dig in, understand the problem, and then figure out how to solve it. All of those and more, and you can find those on our website as well.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with our viewers?
Just to say that Central Florida and Orlando is a growing kind of giving community. And it's just good to know that people are thinking about how to give back. And this is the best time to do that. Post-pandemic now, and as people begin to think about how do we make the community a better place, this is the time to get involved, volunteer, and give back to whatever you care most about in the community.
Can you give us some examples of success stories that you have?
Sure. So the Central Florida Foundation brought together more than 100 nonprofits 5 years ago when we were looking to figure out what housing strategies would work better in the community. And in a pilot where we were trying to house 100 chronically homeless people in permanent supportive housing, we actually eventually were able to house almost 800, that being those organizations doing that important work. And the majority of those folks remained housed, which had never happened before. So when we look at complex social problems, we try to identify what are the things that we could do that could change the course and then allow the community to continue that work afterwards.
Well, thank you so much for being here, for all the important work that you're doing. It's really appreciated.
I appreciate it, Commissioner. Thanks for all you do.
Thanks.
If you're enjoying this show, please subscribe to our channel and follow our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter accounts.